what it will do is unlock a tremendous amount of value for our shareholders, because it's about not just building a facility, but it's building a balance sheet through the carbon credit market as well.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. Joining me is Cielo Waste Solutions CEO Ryan Jackson. Ryan, very good to speak with you. For viewers who are new to Cielo, can you briefly explain what the company does and how it fits into the clean fuels and circular economy space?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Stephen. And yes, Cielo has been around a little while, and there's an iteration or an iterative approach that the company's taken, but the one constant has been a renewable or clean fuels outcome as it relates to the inputs that we have and the process that we undertake. The difference between Cielo then and Cielo now is essentially that we are taking a troubled, hard to manage waste stream such as scrap railway ties, among other wood waste or biogenic waste, and turning it into a clean output such as renewable natural gas or green hydrogen, or down the road, maybe biomethanol as well. So it's been a process by which we had been a technology company, and now we're a solutions company that is using mature technology to implement the waste streams that we're taking on as a feedstock.
Ryan, you recently announced Project Nexus as your first commercial and flagship clean fuels facility. What makes this project so significant for the company and for Canada's clean energy transition?
Well, thanks. And that's important to recognize that the facility or the project that we're now moving forward with in northern British Columbia, and we'll be announcing the site that we've selected here shortly. The importance of this project is underpinned by the availability in the environment that BC has created as it relates to both the clean fuels assistance from government, but also as it relates to the environment in which it operates, which is to say that there are off-takers inside BC that would be available for the output of RNG or low or green hydrogen that we create. So inside Canada, check. Inside BC, double check, because that is the jurisdiction that is the most favorable for this type of business.
You described Project Nexus as the foundation for your scalable Nexus platform. How does this model work, and what's the long-term vision for rolling it out across Canada and internationally?
Well, it's an interesting evolution that we're planning and that we're creating, because the platform itself is not just the technology aggregation or consolidation that we use by way of either gasifiers and methanators to create the output, but there's also a credit aspect or a carbon credit aspect to the platform as well. I can't get into more detail about how it works or what our strategy is, because that's somewhat proprietary given the fact that we're creating a platform. But what I can say is that what it will do is unlock a tremendous amount of value for our shareholders, because it's about not just building a facility, but it's building a balance sheet through the carbon credit market as well.
You've applied for a $5 million Clean Fuels Fund grant, and you mentioned several other funding programs. How important is government support in accelerating the development of Project Nexus and future sites?
Well, it's something like anything that is emerging, and the clean fuels space is nothing new. We're all clear that it's certainly not a new space, but what has caught up now has been the Clean Fuels Fund that you mentioned with respect to what we've applied for in the way of a government grant to fund essentially all of the front-end engineering and design work or feed work that we're going to be doing for Nexus. But in addition to that, the LCFS environment that BC has created as it relates to other companies that have taken the LCFS credit and turned it into project capex that's non-dilutive, but also federally the funds that exist, the Sustainable Innovation Fund, among others, that are critical to allowing what would be a low double-digit return and turn it into a significantly higher one. And that's ahead of any carbon credit monetization that we create as well. So it's critical for any industry that is emerging or that is developing to have that government support to be able to compel that investment.
Ryan, Cielo recently started trading on the OTCQB in the US. What does this mean for the company's visibility and its ability to attract new investors and capital?
Stephen, it's important because we've really run through, and we have a lot of shareholders in Canada and in the United States that already trade on the venture. But what we were missing was that connection into what I would call the deep reserves of the U.S. capital markets that we're looking to attract, and to be able to offer those investors liquidity in the same way that the venture does. And so the QB, coming off the pinks and going into the QB, was a great step for us because it's essentially the U.S. version of the venture, and that is certainly a more robust platform to be able to allow our shareholders and investors that are coming in to trade on, to allow them to have liquidity when they want it.
And as you move towards the pre-feed stage in northern BC, Ryan, what key milestones should those investors be watching out for over the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, I think there's three legs to this stool, and maybe even a fourth. In fact, there would be a fourth. But the first two legs for the stool, we're working hard to be able to announce in a very short period of time, and that's feedstock and offtake. Those two things drive the location to a certain degree, which is the third leg. And then the fourth leg is the capital, how the capital is going to be implemented and how we're going to pay for this, essentially throughout the course of both the credits that I talked about earlier with the LCFS programs, but also the grants, and quite frankly, the debt side through any number of different avenues, such as Canada Infrastructure Bank and so on. So that's the four legs that we're going to be providing as a way of milestones, and we expect those to be announced here shortly.
Well, and I hope you'll keep us posted on progress with that. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Ryan Jackson, the CEO of Cielo Waste Solutions.